Hey guys, welcome back to the fourth quarter finish. And today I am here with Cade Beast Mode Graham, and I will have more information on why they call him Beast Mode at the end of this. But today, I'm just super excited to have Cade here. He's a place kicker for Central Michigan, and he's honestly just an awesome guy. He's got a great attitude about life, and he's got one heck of a story. And I'm super excited for you guys to hear it. So, without further ado, here's Cade. Cade, go ahead and just tell us a little bit about yourself.
Yeah, I appreciate you having me on today. I'm currently a senior here at Central Michigan University. I've kicked for only 1 year here. I walked on as a junior, and now I'm graduating in the spring, but I'm planning to use my 5th year here at Central, so I have that one opportunity to really showcase myself. So, really fortunate to be here, and I can't wait to dive into it.
Dude, absolutely. When we talked a little bit, and I'm so excited for the viewers to hear this, but your story is truly remarkable. So let's just dig right into it, I guess. So junior walk on Central Michigan. Talk to us a little bit about, what inspired you to do that.
Yeah, so obviously I have a couple brothers that have played football for Caledonia and currently play at Hope College. My mom was also a D1 athlete here at Central Michigan. And so our family has been really big into sports, and I've always had a passion for it. I've been playing, sports since a young age, and currently going into an occupation that fuels that sports area. And so getting into like sports and kicking it really was influenced by family and that competitive drive with your siblings. All my siblings were athletes as well, and we always pushed each other. And so I think getting the last push from them to fulfill my dreams of becoming a D1 athlete was really from them. So really couldn't put anything else more on them than that. So
Well, and that's fantastic. Obviously, it sounds like family played a huge part in who you are, as not just football wise, but just who you are. Obviously, I've talked to so many people on here that have brothers, and it seems like there's a reoccurring theme a little bit about competition, and I don't know what that's about. I didn't have a brother, so maybe talk to me a little bit about how did they drive you competitively.
yeah, so my sister plays a huge role in this too, as she is the one that had to deal with myself and my brothers, giving her a hard time with all that. But like I said, my brothers played football as well, and so when I saw them starting to get kind of recruited, there's a little bit of jealousy there because it's always what I've wanted. Unfortunately, soccer and wrestling didn't work out for college. And so, watching them getting recruited and, having the time of their lives, meeting, their friends for a lifetime that were on a team, I think it really made me want to play a sport again. I just had to find out which one I could have the best chance at and go from there. But they're competitive and they've been super supportive as well. But like I said, I'm super competitive, and so I always want to come in first. And so trying just to make that extra push to be what I want. So
That's awesome to hear, man. Like that's that competitive nature that it takes to be a D1 athlete at any level. I mean, any level of football or whatever sport. It takes that competitive drive that people sometimes don't quite understand. So, you know, obviously you did some wrestling growing up, and you said soccer. So, how did that sport have an effect on your mentality for football?
yeah, so wrestling I would say is my number two sport. I really enjoy soccer would be number one just because I played it longer. But I truly found myself during wrestling because you obviously go through the highs and lows in wrestling. I mean, you're cutting weight, you're sweating, you're blood, sweat, and tears in the mat room, and there's a lot of behind the scenes in wrestling than what you just see on the mat. And so there was a couple of years during wrestling where you're cutting weight and you just want to break. And I was always taught by not only my parents but some coaches out there to be tough. And so just having that mindset of not wanting to break or to not be broken I think
Mhm.
it's important to take that with me to, college football and even the process of getting here today. Because there's been times when I've gotten here that I've struggled to kind of stay in it. But I look back at wrestling, and wrestling was truly a place where you're in the trenches and you need to get out of it. And so I always give wrestling a reminder to me when I'm struggling to know
Mhm.
that I've had worse. And so that's kind of how wrestling played a huge factor into today. So
Well, and that's a great thing to hear. I there's a long list of people that have had wrestling backgrounds for football, and it breeds success. It's
mhm.
a to me, it's a mentality. I hear it a lot from what you just said. It's just a mentality that helps you get through. It's about being in different positions, truthfully, on the mat or not. It's about being in different positions and knowing how to get out of them, or how to make the best of that situation. So
Right.
it's obviously great to hear that. Now I've got to ask the question. Everybody's wondering it. Um, why kicker? I don't want to make assume anything because of soccer, but I'm gonna probably make that assumption anyways. So
Right, right. No, kicking, it's funny. I started to pick up kicking during COVID. So COVID, ended in my or started kind of towards the end of junior year of high school and into senior year. And honestly, when COVID was around, there was nothing to do. And so I just thought of the idea of, just going to the football field and, bought a couple footballs and a tee and, just was kicking for fun just to pass time. And so then I would obviously record myself and kind of have fun with it and start posting it somewhere because I thought, I was kicking pretty far. And so, but no, kicking's always been has been fun for me. I just like crushing the ball as far as I can, and having that end result was always pretty cool to me. So.
that is pretty awesome. Like I said, I am a fan of kickers. One of my best friends growing up was a kicker for Caledonia. You might know him, Alec Morris. He
Oh
was a
yeah,
goalie.
yes.
Yeah, yep. And it was always funny. A lot of people on the football team didn't even know his name. They just called him kicker. But he was always dynamite. I watching him kick a ball, I was like, dude, I don't know. I can't kick a ball. So I don't know how he did it. So, leading into that, you know, what tips or techniques did you learn along the way that kind of helped guide you through this process? I mean, walking on at Central as a kicker is no easy task.
Right. What's funny is that it took me 2 years to try out for the team because I was waiting to see if they were hosting any tryouts and stuff like that, but they ended up never giving a tryout. So kind of my process getting to that walk on opportunity was a little bit more out of the ordinary than what it may seem, which I'm sure we'll get into it in a little bit, but.
Sure.
But no, I think like taking the time for like 2.5 years to actually get kicking, it was, a lot of training behind the scenes and doing it, in times where you might not think it was ordinary, but no, it really drove me to becoming one. So
That's awesome, man. Like I said, everybody has a story, and honestly, a lot of people don't hear kicking stories. So this is really cool for me to hear. I'm always curious. Like I said, I can't kick a ball for 5 yards, let alone punting. So let's talk about a really fun question. So what's the furthest you've kicked a ball through the uprights?
So it's funny, I get asked this question quite a bit, especially with my students that I teach with at the high school level.
Mhm.
So when I was training, Mount Pleasant's pretty windy. So granted, I have some
Right.
wind, but I actually have a video of it for proof in case people ask. But 68 yards is what I have
Wow.
as the record right now. Now that's not at a practice or in a game, obviously, but. That was kind of when I was training on my own. And in practice, usually we don't kick that far. We usually try not to kick past 50 yards just to keep the leg fresh. But 68,
Right.
I've also kicked 65, I think, at halftime at one of our games, just warming up. So that's kind of the range I'm working with right now.
That is absolutely insane. That's insane. I don't know any other word to explain that other than that's insane. You must live at the leg press. I have no idea. But that's absolutely crazy, man. That's farther than some guys throw a football. I mean, most guys throw a football, to be completely honest. So that's awesome to hear. Like, that's crazy. I want to see a video of that too, by the way. That's got to
Of
be pretty
course.
electric. But moving forward, obviously, you know, I want to talk a little bit more about the side of things that people are always curious about. So like onside kicks, right?
Mhm.
Like what's your mindset going into like onside kicks?
Yeah, so obviously being a new kicker, it's something that takes a little bit of time to learn.
Mhm.
Um, Fortunately, the onside kick that we installed this year was something I was pretty good at. And so usually when we do, I mean, we have a couple guys on the team that are better at certain onside kicks, so we'll sub them in just because
Sure.
that's better for the team. But the one that we had this year was pretty, I actually really enjoyed it. It was like a little spinner kick. And
Okay.
kind of a slow roller, and it was when your mind you tee it up and you what goes through your mind is don't miss hit it because you do not want to miss. You would rather it go long than short. You do not want to be
Mhm.
shorter than 10 yards because obviously it's a penalty, and
Mhm.
you can't touch the ball until it gets to 10 yards. So you got to
Mhm.
make sure it gets to 10 yards. So those things kind of repeat in your head. Don't miss hit it. Make sure it gets to 10 yards.
Okay, got it. So you're not thinking, along the lines of like, I'm just gonna, kick this straight at a guy and beam it off of him. I mean, I know some people do that, but like, obviously everybody has their own, their technique and stuff. Like I said, Alec Morris, he was like, oh, I picked that guy. That guy's the one. So but like that's pretty cool. So do you enjoy the spin kick then? Do you think that's like the best way?
Yeah, I mean, do I think it's the best way to do it? No, I think there's other onside kicks that work a little bit better. It's just what Central installs.
Got it.
But we do have a couple other play calls that Alec is
Yeah.
more Alec speed, where we choose a person and we try to hit it as hard as we can at them and hope it bounces off them and whatnot. But usually we stick to the old spinner kicks, so which I truly enjoy. So I love working on that.
That's pretty cool. That must be fun to work on in practice. That's pretty cool. Speaking of which, I want to move again, staying with the same idea, kicking in wind. So you said a little bit ago that you kicked a 68 yarder with wind, but how does that affect your mental? Like when you look at the uprights, what is going through your mind? Take us through a little bit what goes through your mind, I guess.
Yeah, so Mount Pleasant wind has always been difficult to kick in. Any kicker in our conference will say that it's one of the hardest stadiums to kick in, just because the wind swirls. So the flags will tell you one direction, where on the field it is completely different. And so usually what we look at in our stadium, at least, is we got these huge flags in the corner, and those tell us where the wind is going up from that level. So if maybe from a longer kick we can see that, okay, it's going to push this way or not. But we got a huge facility that we just put up in 2020 that blocks wind and one in the end zones. And so usually when we're kicking, 35 yards and in, the wind's usually not a factor because, that's blocking so much wind. And so when we look at that, we're just looking to go right down the middle. Don't change anything. Now, when we get backing up a little bit, that's when you start to it's just trial and error and warm-ups. It's all right, do I aim a little left? Let's see how far it pushes in this, or it's like, all right, well, this one it pushed left, but I kicked the same ball and it went straight. So it's a little bit dicey when you kick, but that's just stuff you got to figure out during warm-ups, and then hope when it comes game time, you got it dialed in. But Mount Pleasant's definitely a hard stadium to kick in just because the wind swirls down in the little bowl that we got. So,
Well, they don't call it the mountain for any other reason. So it's
right.
Cairo San. I don't know if you know Cairo Santos very well, but he's a kicker for my Chicago Bears. He's got a pretty cool story as well. He's from Brazil, was a soccer player his entire life too. I really encourage you to watch his story. It's pretty cool. But he has a great saying, and I think it actually relates to you. Is if I can kick in the windiest city and make them, then I must be a pretty darn good kicker. So that's what he kind of takes is he when he signed with Chicago, he said, if I can kick in Chicago, then I can kick anywhere in the league. So, you know, hats off to you, Cade, for having that same mentality of Well, I could kick here, so well, we can kick anywhere, I guess. But um,
Absolutely.
so going continuing down it, kicking on the road, what is that like? Going into a hostile stadium, obviously Central's got, I don't know, something of a rival called Western. I don't know if many people know that, but just thought I'd throw that on there. So like, what is that environment like?
Yeah, man, we don't like hearing the word Western around here. So, I actually haven't kicked in their stadium yet, but we're on the road next year to them, so I'm excited to see what that atmosphere is like, obviously as a rival game. But yeah, this past season, fortunate enough to travel, and so it was nice being able to explore different stadiums. I would say some of the toughest stadiums to kick in were FIU, which was down in Miami, Florida, where the field temp was 101 degrees. And so it was very hot, and you were sweating. It was just it was uncomfortable. And so
Uncomfortable.
you were obviously kicking pretty good because your muscles were loose because it was hot, and there wasn't a whole lot of wind, and so you're kicking them pretty good. But once the heat started to kick in, it started to, like, cramps and stuff were starting to become a problem.
Oh.
So, you can't overwork yourself before the game like you want to. You have to kind of shorten up your warm-up routine. But a story I like to tell is we traveled to Illinois this year, and obviously that's a big step from a MAC school to a Big Ten like stadium.
Yeah.
So, I mean, when you go from playing in front of 30,000 people sold out to, going to Illinois' homecoming game, um, there was a big difference. And so the nerves were definitely up there for me,
Mhm.
especially being first year kicking. And so what I like to tell people is during halftime, we're going out and specialist depart for halftime a little bit to warm up because we
Mhm.
get the field to ourselves. And the student section was right behind one of the uprights.
Oh no.
And it's safe to say that I kicked awful at halftime, and I go over to one of the other place kickers, and I go to the sideline, ready for the second half to start, and I go to him, I'm like, I didn't make a single kick. And it
My
was
God.
awful. I mean, it was terrible.
Oh,
But yeah,
oh,
we laugh about it to this day, and it was
jeez.
and I will forever remember the 10 minutes that I had just shanking balls left and right, and I finally called it quits. And but yeah, I think I'll stick to the old Mac stadiums here.
I'm all about that Maction. That's what Cade Graham thought in that moment is, wow,
Right.
I am total Maction right now. That's all I can think about. So
Right.
that's hilarious. That's something that I'm always curious to hear is like what effect does actually student sections have on, players on the field? Like I know from, the stands, it's always fun. I'm a state fan most days. So,
Mhm.
thinking about the chants they say, which I can't say on air, but those are always fun to hear. But like take us through. Were they saying anything like that was like rattling you, or was it signs? Like, is there
No,
anything like that happens?
I think it was just the presence, honestly. Like I've never performed in front of that many people, so the nerves were pretty high there. But it's just, seeing, behind the uprights just orange. It was like just straight orange, and it's like you couldn't see, other MAC stadiums, there's usually like a facility there, or
Mhm.
even it's just open, and so there's just a huge scoreboard. And so just seeing them there, it was a little nerve-wracking. But we some of those away games, your tunnel or the where you walk out is right near the student section. So, walking out of those tunnels and hearing some of the things, they can get to you sometimes, but usually you're so into the moment that you can't really hear a lot. And, I'm the type of guy that blocks out crowd noise pretty well. Just because I'm focused on what I'm doing. But
Mhm.
there's times where you hear a little something out of the corner of your ear, and it's like, oh, okay, yeah, we're on the road.
All
So,
right. Yep. We're definitely on the road. Gotcha. Like I said, that's something I've always, wondered about is like, man, you gotta hear it. Like, right.
oh
Like,
yeah.
so it's cool to hear that, obviously I'm sure that Central probably does the same thing to people visiting there, which is, hey, it's fair game, but thanks for telling us about that. That's awesome, man. Hearing, a little bit of the ball side of things. I love hearing, the ins and outs of ball. It's just great. So, I wanted to ask one more question. So, like, when going on the road, right? There's obviously time differences, there's, weather differences. So how much does that affect actually the kicking part of the game?
Yeah, so some away games we've flown to one this year, and that was FIU down in Miami, and that was a later kickoff. So we went down the night before, and then or we flew down, and then we stayed the night, and then we didn't have our it was a 6 o'clock kickoff, and so we kind of had time to wake up and kind of get a proper stretch. So there's games like that where you have a later kickoff and you ease into it, like away games. Central, most of our games, I think all but one, all of our away games, we've stayed at a hotel the night before. And so usually we get down there, so like we get a good night's rest. We don't have any like bus leg, or like we're just like stiff from sitting on a bus for 5 hours or so. And
Mhm.
so Central does a really good job about getting us up early too, making sure we're rolling out, we're stretching, we're getting our blood flowing, and ready to go by kickoff. But most of our games, because when action comes around, it's 7 o'clock, 8 o'clock kickoffs, and
Mhm.
so we've been very fortunate to have quite a bit of later kickoffs, which helps in my opinion.
Mhm.
Just because you can, wake up a little bit longer and, take the time to actually warm up yourself and do all that stuff. So,
That
um,
that makes sense. That makes sense. Are you what's your like go to like need okay, I need energy right now. Like what's your go to for that?
Right. So, I don't drink energy drinks. I'm not a coffee drinker. I try and stay away from that stuff because I don't want to be addicted to it. And
Yes.
so, but I am addicted to candy. It's safe to say. So usually my friends will always ask me, especially on the bus, because I always have snacks. And so I got my bus snacks. I always got any form of candy that you could even think of. And so usually I crack open a bag of those candies and all that stuff. So
You,
usually
you're
my energy source is sugar, to say the least.
little
So
bit of sugar. Hey, nothing ever hurts with a little bit of sugar. That's just what you need sometimes. Maybe donut next time. I don't know. Like,
hey, I like that idea.
donuts are great. That's always a great idea. I mean,
They
think
are.
about when you're a little kid, they give you some donuts at a Christmas party or like a kid's birthday party, and you're flying off the walls for at least 2 hours. I mean,
Hey,
the
it's a
crash
sugar
is
rush.
crazy.
It's a sugar rush for a reason. Am I right?
Exactly. It's a sugar rush for a reason. That's so true. Yeah. So, sweet tooths. What's your obviously I kind of gave it away at the start, but what's your go-to candy?
Yeah, so usually Skittles are my go-to. Even the Sour Patch Kid watermelons, I really do enjoy those, but you can give me just about any candy and I'll be able to eat it. So it's a
Uh,
dangerous game that the candy world is offering. So
no gas station candy is safe from Cade Graham. Let it be
no.
known, everybody, Speedway, put stock into him now. Do it now. I'm just telling you, you've got an opportunity here. NIL is a thing now, man. So, you know, but also, obviously, Cade, that's awesome. And hearing a lot about your story, it's really inspirational. Obviously, we talked about it before, but I want to end on the note of a little bit. Tell us about what it was like. You didn't play high school football, and what has this journey been like for you? In
Yeah.
your own words.
Yeah, so not playing high school football was definitely hard to enter into a college football setting, not knowing like other players. We had a team meeting and it was just players, and I brought up to them for the first time that I didn't play football in high school, and a lot of them were shocked, and a lot of them were a little nervous because sure enough, we're playing at the highest level in college, and you're telling me you didn't play football in high school. So that was a little bit difficult to kind of wrap my head around, but it was the reality. And so training, but I was confident in myself, and the specialists that were also in that room were confident in me as well, which they were actually at the camp that I went to when I tried out. And so they watched me firsthand kick, and they were pleased that I was brought onto the team. And so they were actually really supportive in the whole I didn't kick in high school, or this is my first year kicking. And so that it's very fortunate that I was able to walk into a great group of guys that took me in and were willing to at least work with me because obviously I was going to make mistakes because it was my first time really getting involved with
Mhm,
it. And so they were actually really open and I was trying my best to be coachable because it was so new to me
mhm,
at that level. And I had a great kicker in front of me that is looking to go pro right now. And so
mhm.
just learning from him, it was awesome to finally learn something that I've truly worked hard to get to. So
And that's fantastic. Like I said, everybody, I'm gonna put Cade's info down below. I'll put it probably on the screen here. So just everybody go give him a follow. Listen to his story. He's got such a great story, guys. So really inspirational. And for a lot of the younger folks out there that are watching, like anything's possible, man, if you put your mind to it. And I think that's Cade's story. Is that if you want it, you can go get it. Just do it, man. So obviously Cade, I wanted to end here a little bit with, last thing is just, obviously you speak a lot about the people taking you in and the culture of Central. And, what has that meant to you?
yeah, it's funny. My coach, we had exit meetings, back in December, right before we went home on Christmas break, and he asked, transfer portal was so open because of our head coach leaving, and all that. So the first thing he asked me was, so what's your plan? He's like, what are you thinking? And I straight up told him, I said, you don't got to worry about me. I bleed maroon and gold. Like this is my home. And so he was pretty fired up about that. Not to be cringy because that's our saying tips here, but no, that's I mean that says a lot about our culture here. Like I said earlier, the guys, everybody in that room, all 125 guys that are in our or that are in our locker room, we really do take everybody in, and it was so easy to make friends with them or just to call them our brothers. It was an awesome thing to walk into. It was like you were never left, or you were never, you were always part of the team is what it felt like when you walked in. And so that was just the culture here is amazing. And obviously we've got a great fan base that truly do come out when it's 5 degrees outside and it's windy and it's snowy on a Wednesday night. But the culture here is just unbelievable, and it's even going to be exciting, especially with the new coaching staff. So I'm anxious to see how that unfolds here, but I'm sure it's all going to be for the best. And it's truly been a wonderful place to play at, and let alone be here. So.
It sure does sound like it, Cade. Like it sounds like you guys got a great group of guys. And obviously talked to Brock and he said pretty much the same thing. So, hats off to Central for being just a first class Maction school. I got a lot more people I want to interview from Central, and I'll try to do Central a favor and not interview some people from WMU, but who knows? We'll see what happens. But thanks, Cade, so much, for coming on, and I really appreciate everything you've shared today, and obviously I'm rooting for you in the rest of your career, man. It's awesome to hear your story, and one day I'm hoping that maybe you can kick for my Chicago Bears because Lord, do we need it someday. Once Cairo retires, he's 35, man. He's got not much time left. You've got time. Okay. So
He's opening the door a little bit. Not
the
gonna lie,
door
he's
is
opening
opening.
the door.
So, yeah, obviously, everybody, please go follow Cade. Follow Central Michigan Athletics. They're pretty darn awesome. So I'm super excited. We've got a lot of action coming on the fourth quarter finish. After Cade's interview, we've got some other people scheduled, but I'm super excited to just keep the ball rolling, and we're gonna keep trying to get athletes' stories on here for you guys. So thank you so much for watching, guys. We'll catch you on the next one.
Thank you for listening to the Fourth Quarter Finish podcast. Please like and subscribe. To support the athletes that are featured, check out their personal links down below. Fourth Quarter Finish, hard-hitting takes.